So, sorry for the crazy lack of editing and the car sounds. I'm sort of doing this on the spot as I was inspired to do so. But yeah, I've been through a crazy situation. But like all, they start off very simply. So I'll give you a little bit of backstory. My ex-wife and I met back in college. I was around 20 or 21. And interesting enough, she was quite a few years older than me, about 5 or 6 years older than me at the time as a returning college student. And, it started off great, lighthearted, whatever. Kind of stayed in contact and kept, communicating with each other. And, years later, we were still together, as an official couple, navigating through life. Everything seemed to be okay. I noticed little things here and there about, our bond that seemed like we weren't really an ideal fit, but, no relationship is perfect. So I kind of chalked it up to that. Nothing serious. We, we're both educated people, both very reasonable, very rational, on the surface. We'll get to that later. And then, we just navigated life, got our careers going. We got married, we bought a house, we did all of the typical things that a couple, allegedly is predestined to do. And before you know it, a few years later, by this time, we met in the I'm 40 years old now. We met in the 90s, so let's say we met around 98. Come around 2006, 2007, we're still together, and we bought a house, gorgeous home. We live in New Jersey. And then a couple years after that, we, had our first child in 2011, and, just navigating life. But right after we had our first child is where things started to take a turn for the worse. Now, don't get me wrong, as every relationship, there's always small issues and misalignments, but they became much more severe after the birth of, the first child. We'll leave that open to interpretation, what have you. But, we were still together. I started noticing, misalignments in our personalities where I felt that I wasn't respected. I felt that my voice wasn't respected. Everything seemed as if it had to be her way or the highway. And I just, over time, I kind of swept it under the rug, and I would never really bring it up because the act of bringing it up would turn into an argument. Sometimes these arguments, would last 2-3 days at a time. And, it's just a miserable feeling. And I'm a very easygoing, calm, diplomatic, placating kind of person. And I guess that plays into this also. So I started noticing that I would feel very, very bad, very sad. I would feel, put down. I would feel belittled, at the hands of this person. But just seemed to be their personality. And over time, I started internalizing, all of these feelings that I couldn't really explain. I know it sounds like I'm all over the place, but basically I was in a relationship where my ex constantly belittled me. Meanwhile, I'm the quote-unquote breadwinner of the family. I'm a professional person. I work in IT, own a small software consulting business. For all intents and purposes, successful, whatever that means. So around the time, let me backtrack a little bit. So around the time of the first child, she decides that she doesn't want to go back to work temporarily. So, this is my first child. I'm trying to be accommodating and things of that nature. So the plan was for her to stay home for a year or two while, to have that bonding time with the first child. So I kind of reluctantly go ahead with it because, there's financial issues for everyone, regardless of what your career is, regardless of what your home and your house is like. Everyone has bills. If you're making 200 grand a year or 150 grand a year or even 70 grand a year, it's still a large undertaking, especially living in New Jersey with a home and property taxes. There's always going to be bills. So things became to be very tight financially. with her being out of work, but you know, I kind of went along with it. That's kind of my bad also, not speaking up on that. So as that went on, the financial strain caused issues. We kind of started misaligning. I was gonna say arguing, because I'm not the arguing type, so it's kind of weird to explain. There was constantly tension in the home, and I know I'm skipping things, and I'll make several videos to go back into things I skipped in detail, because I'm sure some of this may resonate with people out there. Now, at this point, let's say, you know, our youngest child is now 1.5, 2 years old, etc. You know, the relationship isn't perfect, but you know, I'm still in it, you know, so to speak. And you can see the reluctance in my voice, because even thinking about it now, in hindsight, it's like, why was I in this relationship for such a long time? It's actually crazy that now I'm a gray-haired 40-year-old man thinking about this stuff that started from when I was in, you know, in college. Basically, it's like, where'd the time go? But anyway, all right. So we decided to have a second child. And in my mind, I know this is a classic mistake people say, is that I'm figuring that, okay, you know, maybe if we have another child, things will go back to how they, you know, were in the beginning, or something to that effect. Now, I think that's what I was thinking. But obviously that's a mistake. Two beautiful children, but obviously, you know, that it's a mistake to think that that's going to cure a relationship, because it only actually magnified things. She actually never went back to work, and I'm not the type of person to be on the internet complaining about women or anything like that, but I can only speak about my situation. The fact that she didn't go back to work for the first child, and then remained out of work deliberately for the second child, really placed an incredible strain on the household. And it really felt like I was left out there hanging while she's, you know, living the good life, so to speak. And still, it's just not a good feeling.